Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Planet Coaster. So today, as you can see, we've put down the Elixir Machine. We're going to be making a ride skin for this, based on the TARDIS from Doctor Who. This is something I've tried before. Another really difficult one like last time because it's not, the interior at least, is not a square shape. It's very circular. You see here I've started trying to do the paths around the edge, thinking that might be the easiest way to start, but even the pathing with the angles we're given, it just doesn't quite work out quite right. It'd be nice if you could put in custom angles when you're doing the angles of your paths or angles of items, but you can't at the minute. So we're again using this this rotating technique. You'll see we're placing down some art shapes and we're going to rotate them around to get an exact circle. Well, as exact as is possible in this game. So the idea for this is basically you go in to what looks like a TARDIS parked in front of a building, and then you're inside and you're in the interior of the TARDIS, and there's a ride in the middle. You might see it's quite a long video today. Came out with about 4 hours worth of footage. It could have been a lot longer. I could have carried on. There was a lot more detail in the stuff I wanted to do, but we were limited a little bit by our piece count because I think we were around about 3,500 as it was, and obviously if it's any more than 4,000 it can't go on the workshop, so we were a little bit limited there. I did want to do a bit more detail in, but I think it ends up looking pretty good. So here we're just trying to put some nice capping for that edge because, again, I know it's been commented on a few times, but it's a little bit annoying on Planet Coaster. If your paths are raised, you cannot get rid of that, what's it called? Like the edge, the little ridge at the edge. So we're basically trying to cover it up as well as we can because I didn't really want that in there. And then going straight in, shoving in this central column. I actually found these pieces which just work perfectly and are basically what I was looking for the central column. We're basing this version of the TARDIS on the latest one, so Peter Capaldi. It's a little bit oversized, just because to be able to fit the ride in it had to be oversized, and there is the slightest bit of clipping from the ride to the central console, but trying to fit pieces around the ride was it was a bit of a struggle to try and get it a good size, but also like obviously what it is. You see here I was struggling with this bit a little bit. The pieces weren't quite fitting, and then when they finally did, it did clip a little bit, but I'm hoping people are happy to just overlook that because I think we could have played around for ages and we'd have either ended up with a tiny console or it was going to clip. They were the only options really. So yeah, I'd not done many ride skins, to be honest. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that this is probably my second, maybe third, and one of the other ones I did was also a TARDIS interior. But I do think it works really well, especially with these circular rides, so I might in future try another one of these. I'd quite like to try the older version of the TARDIS, so from sort of Christopher Eccleston, David Tennant era. And I don't think it'd be too similar to this because they're basically completely different designs. I think it'd be interesting to try out. Here, a little bit of a struggle to find pieces small enough. Again, another one with one of the flaws of this game, I'd say, is the smaller pieces. We could just do with like a very small circular piece that you can just. It would just be really useful for everything. We've put some screens on here. Later on, not on screen but off screen, we do put in some a bit of Gallifreyan writing on there. I'm not going to put that with my workshop item. I'm sure you can Google it and find it if you did want to download that and put it in. Or it kind of works with the screens just blank. It doesn't add a lot to it. I try not to use billboards too much because I like my things to be easily downloadable on the workshop. I could attach photos to download with it, but I think it's just easier just to keep it nice and simple. Basically download it and plop it in your park. Again here, trying to find lots of different pieces that look mechanical to fit on here. But again, with small pieces we were struggling. There's a bit of a mechanical arm there of something that we put in, and just bits of baubles. This piece is really useful here, used for the what are they called, the billboard screens or the TV screens. That's mainly what we use, and then just lowering in some of these lights, giving a bit of light to it. I did have a bit of a look at the 6 different panels, and I tried to match them up as well as possible to Capaldi's with the pieces that we have. They're not exactly the same, but I wanted them to at least look similar. A little bit of room for artistic license, I guess. I wanted to put my own little spin on it, so it does look pretty realistic. Changing them to blue in the middle there, I think it works a lot nicer. I think, if I'm right, I think that light changes depending on whether they're travelling or not. I did want for that middle console to light up and put triggered effects on it. I thought that these pieces would be triggered. They're actually not triggered lights, they're just plain lights, I guess. You'll see that police box it's going so quick, it looks like it just came out of nowhere. That is on my workshop. That's something I built a long time ago before I even considered doing YouTube videos, so that is on my workshop, ready to download. Just throwing that in. It does need some editing because I want people to actually be able to walk through it. So you'll see later on we do go back and open up the doors either side. But I've just placed it there at the minute to get some sizing, and then we position it properly once we've got the building around all this. So here we're creating the outer wall of the TARDIS, which eventually we're going to rotate round like we did with the path and everything. So it's kind of simple. Basically, you make one piece and then rotate it right the way around. You'd end up with this wall all the way around. I was hoping not to use any spooky pieces, but I'm trying to find a piece thin enough to do a nice design on the wall. The best we came up with was one of the spooky pieces, so unfortunately if you haven't got the spooky pack you won't be able to download this item from the workshop. You'll have to get that DLC. I did try using some other pieces here, but they just weren't working out for me, and there's this beautiful wooden piece that's really thin on the workshop and it just works so well here that I went for it. I definitely recommend getting the spooky pack anyway. It's only $7.99. That's in pounds. I'm not sure how much it is in other currency, but it's definitely worth the $7.99. You get so many pieces and it really just opens up your options. You'll see here this piece just fits perfect for the design of the TARDIS walls. Designing one wall here, and then you'll see I put 2 lights at the top and then 2 lights within that. These are sort of what the design here, look, these were what the design was like of the TARDIS, but when you turn this to nighttime now, there are so many lights that it kind of really drops the frame rate. I think you might see in the later video, if I put in some night shots, the frame rate has dropped considerably. I don't think I've got the best computer in the world, but I don't think it's awful. So I wasn't quite expecting it to be as bad frame rate as it is in the end. I did also trigger these for when the ride goes, so you've got a little triggered sequence to watch. The story is kind of the first 2 spins of the ride, the TARDIS is taking off, and then the last 2 spins of the ride, you get all the explosions and things, which were more something you saw on the older TARDIS, but I just wanted to use some of the triggered effects, to be honest, and I think it looks quite good. If it really does crash your frame rate with this, you might want to just take off the triggers on the lights and just leave the lights off, because they do eat up a lot of the frame rate. So here you can see we've done the 2 walls and we're just going to rotate these around. I really wanted to get them properly lined up. I do think there are still a few slight gaps, but the tool just wasn't playing nicely with me at this point. But I think the overall outcome that we get does look good. There you go, you can kind of see the shape of the TARDIS now coming together, and you will see that it is a little bit bigger than what we see in the TV show. Again, I couldn't get it a lot closer. I could maybe have brought in them paths a little bit, but then you wouldn't have been able to have people walk around that upper path, and I think that was a nice little added bit, so I really wanted to have that in. as you can see now, we're going along and building this building on the outside, because obviously you can't make a blueprint that's bigger on the inside, so we're given that sort of impression by basically throwing a building around the outside of it that the TARDIS is going to be parked up against. There's going to be 2 entrances to the building, and both are going to have a TARDIS on, so it kind of looks like you've travelled when you come out. Here I am going along and editing that TARDIS. I was expecting to place this down and then just sort of drag the doors open, but when I made this blueprint I obviously didn't have it in mind to have the doors open, so it did take a lot of effort to... I basically had to, as you can see now, demolish it all and rebuild this door. But in the end I think we've got a good... It looks good. I'd say the doors were maybe a little bit thick, but with the pieces that Planet Coaster gives us at the minute, there's no really small pieces, so this was the best we could do with what we had, I think. So as you can see, putting on the doors there, bit of an angle so you can walk straight in. This is actually the exit. I know usually this is the main bit you see as you go in, but I really wanted that when you walk through the entrance, you walk out onto that balcony and you get a big, sort of bit of a breathtaking look, because you're high up, you can see everything. Filled in the floor here from the building. Going to lower that down a little bit. I quite wanted to keep the path around the ride. The pathing I was having a bit of issue with here. As you can see, like as we've put the path down to the ride, it's brought up some of the terrain. And I put it back, and it seemed to work fine, and it seemed to be playing along with me, and then later on again it kind of, the terrain raises up a little bit and it ends up cutting through the ground. If that does happen in any new blueprints, all I can suggest is maybe covering it up, trying to colour the ground a little bit more so it's a bit inconspicuous. It's a bit annoying, and I think that overall, again, I feel like I'm insulting Planet Coaster a lot in this, and it's an absolutely amazing game. But there are just some little improvements it could make, like that. The way the terrain plays with pathing at the minute, it's not ideal, but I think we come out with something that looks good. As you can see, I'm throwing together a staircase here. That's going to be for either side. I've got 4 staircases in total. Overall, I'm really happy with how this turned out. I think, again, I'm a little bit... I wouldn't have liked it to have been so big, but there was not really any way I could work around that. But I think it really gives the impression, you can tell instantly when you walk in what it is. And yeah, this is already available on the workshop. It's got a couple of subscribers on there, but make sure to check it out if you like it. I'll put a workshop link down in the description. So you'll see here I'm playing with these cables, trying to get them to go right the way around as sort of the balcony, the railing, I guess. Ooh, it turned out that when I tried to move it across that they weren't all identical. I'm not sure why all the sides weren't the same shape, because I copied them around in a circle, but it just wasn't quite. Planet Coaster, if you're making square buildings, is absolutely amazing. It's so simple to use. Like, drop your pieces in that you want and it's wonderful. As soon as you get onto sort of circular buildings or big buildings that are like this, or like the Hagrid's Hut one I did, you end up sort of having to fiddle around with bits to get it look perfect how you want it, but I think it looks really good. And again, I want to say sorry to Planet Coaster. I feel like I'm complaining a lot. That's just because I've got such love for the game and I really want it to be perfect. And it's so close. It's a beautiful game. If you've looked at any of the any nighttime shots of Planet Coaster, the lighting is stunning. The music is amazing. I could just listen to that soundtrack all day. And visually, it's a beautiful game. It's just got a couple of little tweaks, I think it could be perfect. I'm not quite sure what to suggest when it comes to like the things I've said, like the pathing tool and stuff, because it's all very difficult to fix, but I think they could do it. Using a couple of the oh, I can't even remember what they're called. These things here for triggered events. We don't actually use the triggers on them. The triggers are for the ride, but I just thought these looked really good as some side panelling and some seating areas. There are 2 of these in the TARDIS, so we just put them in, rotate it around, drop it onto the other side. So easy to use as well. Another great feature of Planet Coaster. Here, it looks like I'm taking a while. I'm having to think about what I can do sort of around the edge. I think Peter Capaldi's had a couple of iterations of the TARDIS, one of which had bookcases, one of which did not. I quite liked they're doing bookcases, so you'll see me go and do that in a second. And I also have a go at doing his sort of chalkboard, his blackboard, but I'm hoping you think it looks alright. Like you can kind of tell what it is. But again, I was just really struggling with the small pieces. There was nothing small enough. I couldn't do small enough writing for it, so I just had to use some of the icing shapes. You'll see that coming up in a bit anyway. And again, look, I'm just fiddling with these railings because things don't quite line up, but you can sort of see it you can see it start taking shape. Here, I had quite a hassle. I was trying to do the roof of the TARDIS. The cameras in this game I think they're really good. The only difficulties are when you go underground or when you're trying to look up at something like this. And you'll notice a few times the camera was just jumping all over the place and not playing nicely with me. We get it eventually. And actually, I'm really happy with how this turns out. I think it looks really good. We end up rotating it around several times and it basically looks like the centre of the TARDIS. I think it is perfect. But yeah, just trying to play with that camera looking up wasn't easy. I think there's one point where I end up jumping to the other side of the park, so apologies that there's a lot of movement here. Again, using the same trick, just rotating it around. Love this trick. If you don't know it, basically I put like a column in the middle, a wall piece, like not a wall piece, an art shape or something that's non-grid based to the side. Decorate the one piece, copy it round, and then just rotate it all the way around. Not explaining it all that well. I'm sure there's a video. I think I'll try and find that and link it in the description as well, because it's a really useful tip, and I use it quite a lot on Planet Coaster. It's like a lot of my building, because again, as soon as you try and do anything not to the grid, it's the best way to do it. So just decorating the outside now. I was going for just sort of a generic building, block of flats or something. Really, I'm only doing this because I didn't want to just leave it, oh, here's a TARDIS on the edge of a blank building wall, so I end up decorating the building as just some exterior random buildings. I think it looks alright, but I guess you can edit that as you wish. Again, yeah, it's all available on the workshop. You'll see here the TARDIS again was a little bit oversized, but just with the pieces we had, it was the best we could do. Yeah, I think I've pretty much said all there is to say about this. I'm going to leave it there for now with the commentary. If you have enjoyed, then please leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be doing some more of these. I think my last video got a couple of 100 views, I think, and I was pretty happy with how it went, so yeah, I'll definitely be doing some more. And I'm going to leave it there. So I hope you'd enjoyed. The link's down in the description to the workshop item if you want to download this and put it in your park. Yeah. So join us next time for more Planet Coaster.